only got this property from KW is actually wrong. There was a completely different private property that had a lease. Then that company holding that lease assigned that lease. Thank you so much. My 2 minutes are over.
The second witness. Order, honorable senators. Senator Olekina, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question to Mr. Mulwa. Mr. Mulwa, if you look at the response in volume 6 by the Deputy President, the Deputy President says as follows, 4.2, volume 6, which is in page 11. In response to the allegations that you called him, or he called you, to be able to push for the bid board. He said that this is clear in paragraph 4 of the witness affidavit of Andrew Mulwa. He contradicts himself by claiming that on the 11th July 2023, I pressured him to surrender the original bid board, yet by the letter dated 5th of May 2023, KEMSA had requested for collections of the original bid. Thus, there was no cause for pressure to be exerted on Mr. Mulwa or any other person. Now, in your affidavit on page 70, you put an excerpt of your WhatsApp or communication between yourself and Dr. Rigathi, where Dr. Rigathi, it's alleged, he said, Dr. Ikunu Rigathi here, kindly contact me. When possible, there is a document for HE we are trying to collect. In the same affidavit, you have annexed 3 letters. One letter dated June 30th, and I want you to keep in mind of the 30th of May. June 30th, which is a letter sent to you, from KEMSA to ESCC, requesting for the bid board. That is June 30th. That is a month after the date that the Deputy President alleges to have received information from KEMSA asking him to collect the bid bond. Secondly, you have a letter dated 11th July, where you communicate to the company called Shabika Impex Private Limited, asking them to collect the bid board. Yesterday, when you're being cross-examined, you said that you were afraid, you felt pressured when the Deputy President called you, allegedly, and asked you to enter the bid board. Could you please give us a chronological of events? Because this letter is dated 11th that you sent to them. You allege that the Deputy President called you on 11th.
Honorable SC, Rule 23 of the Rules of Procedure. SC Okenyuri, he's gotten the question. He's gotten the question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also wish to ask Dr. Andrew Mulwa the following. Confirm if the Deputy President did call you. 2, kindly confirm if Shobika Implex Private Limited, whose agent in Kenya is Crystal Kenya Limited, had emerged as one of the winner of the 3.7 billion tender before the tender. And finally, what was the issue with the bid bond that you said yesterday you were trying to go pick from EACC? Thank you.
Senator Kavindo.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Speaker. My question is directed to the to Mutuse and maybe his lawyers. Yes, I'm directing it to his lawyers. Please, kindly give me my time. I didn't talk, Olekina, when you were talking.
Senator Kavindu.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me go
Only
ahead.
address yourself to the chair.
Thank you.
Proceed.
One of my questions is about the speech which Honorable Mutuse said that the Deputy President addressed from Mombasa. My question is there any law preventing either the President or the Deputy President from intervening if they see any failures with the National Intelligence Services? Is there any law preventing them from intervening or questioning the National Intelligence Service, or is there any law directing them where they should ask these questions from? Two, the lady, Honorable Justice Esther Maina, has she ever made any complaint after the case was done? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Bone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to Dr. Mulwa. Dr. Mulwa, I can attest that the number you have put here, through which His Excellency the President pressured you, he relates very well with me because in the days we used to talk with him, I used to use the same number. Your evidence is so critical that we would like you to walk us through that conversation between the Deputy President and yourself, during which time he was putting pressure on you. Mr. Speaker, sir, Tom Masharia, Counsel, you are a man of many years of experience, and you know the hierarchy of laws. The Constitution is at the apex, and all other laws are subservient. In your attempt to justify, or rather to protect, and secure the Deputy President from the accusation that he breached the Constitution, Article 27, which prohibits him from discrimination, you have chosen to justify it by using an act of parliament called the Political Parties Act that provides for the agreement. Tell me, are you telling me that by dint of that act, which is subservient to the Constitution, which the Deputy President violated, therefore the act sets him free? And finally, my younger brother, Ongoya, you have told us that for Mutuse to be able to prove that there was insubordination, he needed to bring something from the supervisor.
Senator Hamida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I remember I am the one who raised this motion, this statement on the mosquito net for investigation. So I am so much aware of this investigation that went on. But Dr. Mulwa, apart from the financial loss that KEMSA incurred, did the alleged interference of the relationship, the alleged interference affect the relationship between the Global Fund and KEMSA? Because I remember, of course, the tender was terminated, which was about 3.7 billion. Global Fund terminated the tender. So was there any a relationship lost between the two? Number two, did the PS Josephine Mburu and Seri Ramadan lose their jobs due to this tender process, during the tendering process of the mosquito net tender? Number 3, did you feel intimidated and coerced to act given the office of the DP? Thank you.
Senator Wafula.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Daktari Mulwa, madai kwamba ulipata simu kutoka kwa naibu rais kufuatilia jambo linalohusu mwanawe. Wewe kama mtumishi wa umma, unapopata simu kutoka kwa kiongozi wako wa kitaifa akifuata yale yanayohusu mwanawe, unaona ni vema kutekeleza jinsi anavyotaka ama kufuata katiba ili kutetea yeyote aliyeomba nafasi ya kufanya kazi? Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika.
Senator Munyihaji.
Pia mimi swali langu ni kwa Daktari Mulwa kwamba hii zabuni ulisema kuwa ilifutiliwa mbali. Je, wakati ilipofutiliwa mbali kuna hasara yoyote ilitokea kwa serikali ama kwa KEMSA kutokana na kufutiliwa mbali kwa zabuni hiyo? Pili ni kuwa wewe kama mkurugenzi wa KEMSA ulichukua hatua gani ulipopata simu ama ulipopata maelezo kutoka kwa naibu wa rais kwamba hiyo tenda ama zabuni ipewe mtu fulani? Asante.
Senator.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Dr. Mulwa, I have 2 related questions to you. One, is the return of bid boards part of the procurement process? And if it is part of the procurement process, would you say that a call from the Deputy, His Excellency Deputy President on this issue amounts to interfering with the procurement process? Thank you.
Senator Mariam.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. My question is to Dr. Mulwa, that you said DP calls you. Is there, when he calls you, is there any interference with the procurement process? Thank you.
Witness, you may now proceed to make the clarifications as sought by the honorable senators. You have 10 minutes to do that.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable senators. I will try to answer the questions that have been put forth on the matter of the procurement of the long-lasting mosquito nets by the various senators. Mr. Speaker, sir, the Senator for Narok asked me to give a chronology of what happened, so that I may be able to bring out the issue of the pressure that I got from His Excellency the Deputy President, and alluded to the letters that I have submitted in regard to the tenders. Indeed, Mr. Speaker, sir, on around the end of April, the Global Fund wrote to the Kenya Global Fund Management Office, communicating a pre-award review decision to terminate the procurement of the 3.7 billion mosquito net tenders. Mr. Speaker, sir, this was after the procurement had been done earlier on in February by KEMSA, and it's a usual procedure during the procurement under the Global Fund after the evaluation of the tenders, the evaluation report is shared with the Global Fund to authenticate if full procurement procedures and law have been followed. On review, the Global Fund realized that the tender which the evaluation committee had recommended to be awarded to one Shobika Impex Limited had an issue. And Mr. Speaker, I will refer to the bid bond, which I shared in the documents. In the motion, I think it's page is page 76 out of 85. Mr. Speaker and honorable senators, if you look at the bid bond that I'm referring to, the bid bond down there has a stamp of the 21st of February 2023, having been received by one Monica at 9:37 a.m. Mr. Speaker, sir, this tender was running at the time this bid bond is being received. The tender was supposed to close on the 10th of March, but the earlier closure, this bid bond, did not come as part of the tender document. Usually, bid bonds are annexures to the tender document, and therefore, this bid bond came as an ordinary mail. Further, if you look on top of that page, it's written PD, which is Procurement Department, FY&F for your next necessary action, and I can confirm the signature for the CEO who was there before me on the 23rd of February while the tender was opening. In other words, Mr. Speaker, sir, this bid bond already had issues even before the tender closed and was opened, and therefore the bid bond was submitted outside the tender document, which is already an irregularity in the procurement. Mr. Speaker, after the cancellation of these tenders, the Global Fund, this issue became brought an outcry, and as a result, a principal secretary, the CEO, and officials from the Ministry of Health and KEMSA were suspended as a result. The PS was actually dismissed. Mr. Speaker, sir, an investigation was instituted by the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority, the EACC, both houses of Parliament, both the National Assembly and the Senate, investigation onto the procurement anomalies. Mr. Speaker, one company wrote to us around June 12th or thereabout, asking for return of the bid bond. This company was Shobika, and we were able to, we did not have the document because EACC and other investigating agencies had taken the original documents. And therefore, we wrote back and informed them of the state. And when July came, I think the investigations were happening, officers were recording statements, and that is when I got a call from the Deputy President asking me to surrender the bid bond to Dr. Rigathi Kino. On the same day, because I called EACC, I informed them that, and for the record, Honorable Speaker, I had never received a call from anyone above my cabinet secretary. This was the first time I received a call from a sitting deputy president and requesting for documents that were under investigations. Mr. Speaker, in my 15 years of public service, I had never been asked to do that. And therefore, I felt coerced, and I had to leave the business that I had for the day, go to EACC, follow up the bid bond so that I am able to retrieve it. I was actually able to write a letter to them and follow it up because I had written a letter earlier, and I followed up and sat there for 5 hours for them to discharge the bid bond. And on the same date, I wrote a letter and called for them to collect the bid bond. I think, Mr. Speaker, that explains the conversation and the pressure that I felt as an officer serving in public service. I have explained that the company that had been awarded this tender through the technical evaluation was Shobika Impex, whose local agent, sole agent, is Crystal Limited. Mr. Speaker, sir, I have walked the Senate through the conversation that I had with the, the question asked by Honorable Dr. Boni Alwale on what transpired and how I was able to get the bid bond. Yes, beyond the financial loss, Mr. Speaker, the nets that we were supposed to buy 14 million nets under KEMSA procurement. As a result of purchasing these nets through the Global Fund WAMBO system, we could only purchase 10.2 million nets. Global Fund could only supply 10.2 million nets. That means Kenyans lost 3 million also nets as a result. Secondly, there was a delay. We were supposed to implement the distribution of nets to the public from September 2023. That was not possible as a result of the delays. We were only able to start distribution of the nets from January this year. In effect, there was a loss in terms of money, there was a loss in terms of number of nets, and 3, there was a loss in terms of citizens did not enjoy the protection that they would have gotten from the nets in the time that had been envisaged. Indeed, I can confirm, and I've already mentioned, that PS Josephine was dismissed, and acting CEO and other officers were also suspended. About following the law, when I got the call, Honorable Speaker and Senators, I was able to, consult the investigating authorities, and through correspondence, I was able to get the documents as per the law. And therefore, I did not in any way go out of the law as a result. Is the return of bid bond? Mr. Speaker, I'm told my time is up. Can I wind up?
The remaining queries.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Speaker, whether return of bid bond is part of procurement, indeed return of bid bond is not part of the procurement process per se, but after the procurement process, return of bid bond is a usual procedure because people had given commitments in banks, in insurances, and therefore returning bid bonds is a procedure. The extraordinary circumstance in this matter is 1, the bid bond that had been submitted was not part of the tender document per se, and number 2, this was a matter that was under investigation. And therefore, for the Deputy President to push for the bid bond to be returned, it means that it was pushing for interference of an investigation that was already ongoing. I already gave account that I had to personally go to EACC to get the document. Mr. Speaker, I submit. Thank you.
There's some clarifications that are sought from Council Macharia.